All right, hi everyone, and welcome to LeadUpTeach on YouTube Live with myself, Elizabeth Bostwick, and Laura Gilchrist, and our very special guest, Greg Smedley Warren. Welcome, Greg.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
We're so glad you're here tonight. We're going to take a minute and introduce ourselves. My name is Heidi Veal. I'm an assistant principal at an early childhood school in North Texas. And I've been an educator for over 16 years. And during that time, I've taught in the classroom, been an instructional coach, and now serve as an administrator on a campus. And I, along with Liz and Laura, co-founded and we co-moderate LeadUpTeach here on YouTube Live. And I also co-founded and co-moderate ECE Chat every Tuesday night on Twitter. I'm very passionate about leadership, innovative learning, early childhood education, of course, ECE Chat, and other things. But before we go much further, Laura, would you please take a moment to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everybody. My name is Laura Gilchrist. I'm an instructional coach in Kansas City at Turner High School. In my 22nd year, it's my second year of coaching, I taught middle schoolers science and social studies for 20 years and absolutely loved it. I'm passionate about designing learning around kids, both in schools and in our cities, so that when they walk out, they're walking into their future and they self-identify as learners and leaders. Greg, we are just so pumped to have you on tonight. By the way, Greg's username is @Kindersmorgy, and you'll understand that if you don't already. Also Instagram. And Elizabeth, please take a moment to introduce yourself.
All right, thank you, Laura. Hi, everyone. I'm Elizabeth Bostwick, and I teach 4th grade at Gardner Road Elementary in Horseheads, New York. I'm extremely passionate about fostering a true love of learning within all students by immersing them in makerspace, project-based learning, and passion projects, while also inspiring them to ignite their shine. Greg, we're so excited to be inspired by you, and I know that our audience is ready too. Please introduce yourself.
Hey, everybody. So I am Greg Smedley Warren. I'm a kindergarten teacher here in Nashville, Tennessee. I've been teaching kindergarten for 8 years. I spent my first year teaching in 5th grade and absolutely loved 5th grade. Then I moved to 2nd grade and spent 2 years in 2nd grade, and I felt at home in 2nd grade. I felt like that was my calling, where I belonged. And at the end of 2 years in 2nd grade, principal moved me to kindergarten. And so I was 31 years old at the time, and I did what all grown-up men do when that happened. I called my mommy and I cried because I had no desire to do kindergarten. But on that first day in kindergarten, I fell in love, and I knew that I'd found my passion. So that's how I ended up in kindergarten. And then about 6 years ago, I started my blog, the Kindergarten Smorgasboard, just on a whim, and after a little bit of pushing and encouragement from my husband, Jason. And thought, well, my mom will read it and Jason will read it, and that's about it. And had no intentions and no expectation that it would become what it has. And so I've been very blessed. I have the best job in the world, and I'm very excited that I can share that passion through my blog and through social media, Kindersmorgy on Twitter and Kindergarten Smorgasboard on Instagram. So I'm very, very blessed to have the opportunity to share my passion.
Wow, welcome, Greg, and thank you so much for telling us kind of the background story of how you are who you are today. I love the way your mom is included in your story. We want to also give a very, very special welcome to our LeadUpTeach audience who's watching here on YouTube Live. And we also invite everyone to use the hashtag on Twitter, LeadUpTeach, to tweet out great things that you're hearing or the link to tonight's episode, and just share the learning and continue the learning after tonight.
All right. Well, Greg, to get us started, share about the journey that led you to become the inspiring educator you are today.
Wow. Well, so I always wanted to be a teacher, and my 3rd grade teacher was phenomenal. And I just remember feeling very loved in her classroom, and every day being fun. And even when things went bad or when we got in trouble, like it still was loving and caring, and it was still such a positive, happy place. And that's what I wanted to be at when I became a teacher. My first year in 5th grade, I had a little girl, and I still picture her face when I talk about this. And so 5th grade, and she could barely read a 2nd grade level. And it was heartbreaking for me. And of course, I was a first-year teacher, so I was lost anyway, and felt so overwhelmed. And I did everything I knew to do with her to help her, but I was so disturbed by that. And her experience and the experiences I had with her, they're what pushed me to, I wanted to do younger kids. And so that's why I went to second grade. Because I vowed that year that no child would ever come through my classroom and get to that point. And no matter what it took, no matter how much effort it took, or no matter how much research or planning or prepping or coming up with ideas, no child would get to that point. And so that's really what pushed me to do what I do, and to bring that child-centered learning back into the classroom, and to put the focus on the kids. And so just, over the years, like I'm constantly learning and researching and coming up with things that I can do to make it fun and interesting and engaging. But it really started with that one little girl, and her journey and the way that we had failed her as teachers, and me vowing that wouldn't happen again, to at least, kids that could come through my classroom. And now I feel like I'm hopefully able to impact other kids not in my classroom as well.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, and it's incredibly powerful to be able to think about the impact that you are having on the students too. And so you're incredibly passionate about infusing joy into the classroom every day by creating joyful learning for your students. Share with us about why you're so driven to lead the Happy Classrooms movement.
Well, it's pretty simple. We have the best job in the world, and we get to go into a classroom every day, and we truly get to impact the lives of our students, whether that's in big ways, when we're teaching them to read and write, but every day we get to have an impact on them and really impact their lives, and they have an impact on us. And I think that's something that we can sometimes lose. We get, it's the end of the year and we're talking about testing and data and all of that stuff, and we get caught up in the mandates and the paperwork and the politics and all of this stuff. And so there's so much more to that, and we have to, as teachers, we need to focus on what our mission is, and our job and our focus, and it's the kids. It's all about the kids. That's it. It's all about the kids. Everything else is just stuff, and we have to be careful not to let the stuff get in the way of our mission, which is our kids. And so that's the idea of Happy Classrooms. And so the whole idea of the hashtag Happy Classrooms movement came about because there was so much negativity in social media and in the media itself and in public about teaching in schools. And so Kayla Delzer and I talked, and we came up with this idea for Happy Classrooms because we want teachers to know that they have a voice, and that we can affect change if we tell our stories, and we have to use our voice, and our voice is our classroom, and what's happening in our classroom is how we affect change. And so I want my kids to come to school every day, and I want them to be excited, and I want them to leave excited. Because for a lot of our kids, coming to school is exciting because it's their happy place. It's where they're safe and loved and respected. But when they leave at the end of the day, I want them to be just as excited so that they come back, and they want to come back, and they want to be there, and they want to learn. And so it should be fun. There's no reason that learning should ever be boring, especially when you teach, kindergartners or early childhood. They're 5. Like, everything to them is amazing and wonderful. So it makes my job a little bit easier because everything we do is awesome. We did a circle map today, and I had forgot ahead of time to draw the circle. So I got out my little circle drawer that we made, and they oohed and awed for 5 minutes, and they were blown away. And that's the beauty of what we do, is that we truly get to have an impact, and everything to our kids is awesome and exciting. And I think we lose a lot of that awe ourselves as adults. And so that's why I go out of my way to make it such a fun, joyous place, because I want it to be a place where my kids want to be every day.
So it sounds like you plan as an artist.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, I think my degree is Bachelor of Science, I think.
Right.
But it's so much more than that. Yeah, there's a science to it, of course, but we're performers, and we're artists, and we're on stage all day. And, there's, like you said earlier, there's really an art to what we do. And we sometimes, again, that gets lost in the stuff that gets in the way. But yeah, and so I feel like all the time I'm creating, and people always tell me, oh, you work so hard, you work so hard. But to me, it's not work, because it's like people love to do crafts and they love to be crafty. Well, this is my craftiness, and this is my hobby, and this is what relaxes me. And I get so excited when I plan something and I'm ready to go in the classroom and do it. I want to see the kids' reaction. I want to see how it works. I want to see the results.
I think that's what people that aren't teachers, they don't understand that drive. But once you figure out how to do that, and that art part that you can affect kids so deeply, and it affects you, that's when you have that drive. You just always seek to do that for kids.
Absolutely.
It requires a lot of thought, but it's, like you said, it's fun.
And seeing how creative it is. It is a very creative process, and it is very much connected to who we are as people, as educators, because I truly believe that teaching is a very, it's kind of a very personal thing. Like it's very connected with who we are as people. And so much of that comes through in the classroom, your personality, your style, your art, your craftiness, your strengths, your gifts.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we were talking earlier about, mandates and testing and developmentally appropriate and all of the curriculum and all of that stuff. And, our job is to teach our kids, and it's our job and our responsibility to make that learning accessible to every child in our classroom. And so when I'm sitting down planning lessons and activities, I want them to be fun, because that's how I make it accessible. The more fun we have, the more we learn. And so the two, learning and fun, aren't mutually exclusive, because you can have both and do great things with both of them. It's when you take the fun out of the classroom is when kids stop learning.
I think we're all shaking our head about that.
Well, and that's backed by brain research too. I mean, when you're having fun, you learn. So that's great. Yes,
absolutely. Well, it's a perfect segue to our next question. Greg, you're so well known for building a positive culture through your morning meetings and other management practices and rituals. Would you share a little with us about your morning meeting rituals and just maybe some recommended first steps that teachers can take to move forward to create an increasingly joyful classroom as a result of morning meetings?
So the basis of everything that happens in my classroom is built on relationships. Mm-hmm. It's all about relationships. And even before morning meeting, you have to build those relationships with your kids, because they don't care about rules and procedures and routines and standards and curriculum and anything until they know that you care about them and that you love them. And so my classroom management is all based around relationships with my kids. That's why I choose to eat lunch with my kids every day. I don't have to be in the cafeteria with them, but I choose to keep those relationships and keep building those relationships and to have that time with my kids. So morning meeting, I think, is the central foundation of every classroom. So I spent my first 6 years teaching at an inner city school here in Nashville. It was located right in the heart of the projects. So it was challenging. It's a very, very challenging environment. Absolutely loved it. I hated to leave after 6 years, but those first couple of years were really hard, because behaviors were hard, because the kids come with a lot of external baggage and stuff that they have to work through and process, and trauma and poverty. And so when I got moved to kindergarten my first year, we were actually a pilot school for morning meeting, and we were trained by Responsive Classroom in morning meetings. And that first year implementing morning meetings in my classroom was a total game changer. And it blew me away, because we were sent to this training not voluntarily. We had to, we were forced to go. And so we all went for a week in the summer and smiled through it. And I was like, okay, we'll see how this goes. And I initially thought, this is something else to add to my plate. Like, okay, here's another 20 minutes. I've got to find time to do this. But that first year, it was a game changer. My kids got along better. Behaviors were down. We learned more. We got more stuff done because the behavior was better. I wasn't spending as much time on discipline and behavior. And so I'm so passionate about morning meeting, and it's something that I think every classroom should be mandated to do, because it truly is the foundation of everything that happens in my classroom. what you see happening in my classroom and on our videos and Facebook Live, none of that would happen if we didn't have morning meeting in place, because that's how we bond and build those relationships every single day. And that's, if you want to know my opinion, that's my most precious time. That is the most valuable 20 to 25 minutes we spend every single day. So with all of that being said, it's morning meeting, great place to start is Responsive Classroom. They've got a great website. They have great books that you can read. So it starts with a greeting. Everyone gets greeted because there's power in feeling like you belong to something special. And then we have our sharing time, which is the most powerful part of the morning meeting, because that's when your kids start to open up and you really start to learn and understand who they are and where they come from and what they're going through and what they're dealing with. And then you have an activity, so something to get them up and moving a little bit. And then the morning message, which gives them kind of a plan for the day. We start very, very simply at the beginning of the year. And I start on day one with that morning meeting. And we learn how to make eye contact and handshakes, and how to greet each other, and all of those communication skills and those social skills that aren't a standard, so they might not get taught. We're teaching them every day. And one of the things that I'm most proud of every year is I hear from adults all the time about how good my kids are at having conversations. And that comes because we learn that in morning meeting. We're learning how to talk to one another. We're learning how to ask questions. And that sharing time is when I teach my kids how to ask questions. And so my kids are very good at asking questions and not giving statements, because we do it every single day. And so, of course, that takes months to establish. But I think if you're looking for something to really make a huge impact in your classroom management, it has to be morning meeting. And it really should be happening in every single classroom.
Up to what grade, like your kindergarten, what would you, through elementary, what do you think beyond there?
I think every grade. I think pre-K through 12th grade. Because it's you come together and you really form that bond. And it's that relationship building. And that's,
students have a voice from the beginning every day. They get
absolutely
to heard. And that is, people just want to be heard. They want to know that their ideas and their thoughts and their feelings are valued.
Yes. When I open it up to sharing time, every kid wants to share. They all have something they want to talk about.
They want to make connections naturally. And at our youngest grades, that actually is linked to standards. It's oral language development, listening and speaking, turn taking. And what's so powerful, what you're sharing, is that is the foundation for all learning, is that social, emotional learning and health. If we get that right, if we give our students and our children that gift, then their heart and their mind is going to be open to any and all learning that we bring to them next. That's why I just love how powerful the morning meeting is. I couldn't agree with you more, Greg.
It's phenomenal. Sometimes I'm even amazed when I watch my kids and how they respond to situations. Like so right now, of course, end of the year, we're doing our running records, our text level assessments. And when the kids go up on their levels, they get on my table and they get to dance. And so everybody gets up and we have a little celebration. And that's all good and fun and the kids love it. But what has happened after that has been one of those moments where you just sit back and you're like, wow, this is amazing. Is that when the kids jump down off of the table, other kids come over to them and hug them and tell them, good job, or way to go, so-and-so, that's awesome. That I didn't tell them to do that. That's not an expectation in our classroom, but it's come about because we have that morning meeting and we've built those relationships and we've built this culture of love and respect and excitement for everybody. Mm-hmm. And so it's amazing to see them love one another the way they do. And it comes because of morning meeting, because we've built that relationship with one another.
I'm just fascinated too by we tend to think about primary and secondary separately. And well, you get things that only work in primary. No, it's really across the board. Anything that's good for kids, we need to be applying across. And I love that, we're talking kindergarten here, but all this can be applied across. And the problem in high school is you've got these typically short blocks of time in a lot of places. So it's hard to do that. But if you had longer blocks of time with kids, you could do that easily, and it needs to be done. Yeah. They want to be heard.
In fact, at our school, in our entire district, it's mandated that every class should be doing morning meeting. And in our school, it's built into our master schedule. And so if you look at my schedule, the first 20 minutes are blocked off for morning meeting. And at the end of our announcements, which the kids do live on the television, they say, "Have a great day, now begin morning meeting." And so it's that big of a deal to us. And of course, even if it wasn't, I would still be doing it because it's that powerful. And it's like everything else. It requires procedures and routines and modeling and training. And so if, you can go on my YouTube channel and on my blog, and you can see all kinds of videos of us doing morning meeting and what it looks like and how it runs. I think I even have the first day on there where you can watch our very first morning meeting to see how it goes. And then we do them live every Friday.
Really?
On Facebook. So that's always fun. Yeah. So every Friday, our morning meetings are live on Facebook. So those are always fun because you never know what's going to happen. And it's live, so there's no editing involved.
Do you find that a lot of parents tune in and watch?
Oh yeah, the parents, they absolutely love that.
I would be dying
they have
as a parent
access to what we're doing. And I get a lot of questions about that, the videos and the pictures, and of course, absolutely, I have permission. But the parents love it because they can see what their kids are doing all the time.
Oh, that makes
And that's incredible. But I have to go back to also just that you're mentioning bringing morning meetings, not just to the primary, but the secondary. And I know, Laura, you kind of were talking about that too. And I think that, like you're mentioning with your district, where it's every single grade level is expected to do that. But I think that would be amazing to see the effect of year after year of students engaging in the morning meeting and the effects of that. But I know as a mom of a middle school son, I think it would be great to be able to see that too, just for that, because they have such a need for social acceptance.
Yes.
Well, Greg, your math and literacy centers, which you call hippopotamuses, are famous. Can you tell us how and why you designed it look like, and give tips to teachers so they can do the same?
Okay, so the name hippopotamuses came about because sometimes things just just come out and our filters don't work. And we were actually in a meeting with someone from our district, and they told us that it was now mandated that we had to call them workstations and we couldn't call them centers. And so I said, oh, well, okay, I'll call them hippopotamuses and make a bunch of money. Because I'll write a book about hippopotamuses and everybody will buy my book and I'll be a millionaire.
The learning,
just, being, kind of silly and trying to make light of the fact that we now had to call them a certain name. And so I went back to my classroom after that meeting. And of course the kids wanted to know where I was and what I was doing and what happened. And so I told them, and I said, well, we'll call them hippopotamuses. And I was really just kidding with them, and it stuck. So that's why we call them hippopotamuses. But again, it goes back to what we were talking about earlier. It has to be fun. If it's not fun, they're not going to want to sit there and do it. And the funny thing is, and I wish I had a video of this happening, but my kids will say to each other, hey, if you don't work in your hippopotamuses, he's going to take them away and we'll have to sit on the floor and do work. Like, they don't get that they're working in our hippopotamuses or our centers, and that's the point. I don't want them to know they're doing work because they're having so much fun and they're so involved in what's happening. And again, it's all about engagement. And if they're bored, they're not going to be engaged, and then you're going to have behavior problems. And so I spend a lot of time working on coming up with centers and activities for them because, again, I want to meet their needs. And so everything that we're doing is meeting the needs of my kids. It's not just cute and to be cute. Is it cute? Absolutely, because they're 5. They need stuff that's going to hold their attention. But everything that my kids do is meeting the needs of that child or that group or the class as a whole. I'm constantly looking at our data. So when I am creating centers, it's standards-based, meeting the needs of the kids. Everything's differentiated, but it's fun. It's a whole lot of fun. And the past 2 days, I've had a little girl 3 times at least today, and she has a very forceful way of talking to me. And she says, are you going to make new centers? And I'm like, yeah. I said, yes, I'm busy. I told you I would make you some new ones. I
do it on Sunday. It's not Sunday yet.
I'm like, I will get on it this weekend. But they want them, and they want it because it's fun, and they're having fun, and they're playing, and they're with their friends, and they're talking, and they're learning. And that's what it should be. It bothers me a lot when I'm in classrooms and they're doing worksheets at centers. And I'm like, and they're like, they're bad in centers, or they're not engaged. And I'm like, it's because they're bored. because they're doing worksheets. And so again, it goes back to making it fun so they want to learn. And my kids have a lot of choice in their centers or the hippopotamuses, and that's key because you have to give them a voice. It's their learning and it's their classroom, and they need to have voice and choice. The more we give them choice, the more they're empowered. Once they're empowered, they have engagement. When they're engaged, they're learning and they're not causing problems or acting out. So my kids have a lot of choices in their centers, a lot of freedom, of course, within certain limits. Of course, I have all the control at the end of the day, but I give them a lot of choice and a lot of control over their learning.
Happy with.
Yes. And that's, when it comes to centers, some tips, give the kids choice. When they have some more choices, they're going to have more buy-in. Make it fun. And the beauty about kids is it can be anything. Pool noodles. Cut up some pool noodles, write some numbers on there. They can build equations. It cost me $2. Took me about 10 minutes to make that math center, and the kids love it. So it doesn't always have to be something big and elaborate. It can be simple. And when I'm creating my centers, I'm very deliberate to keep the process the same. The only thing that changes are the skills and the clip art, because then I don't spend any time reteaching centers. It's that consistent structure that allows them to be so independent. And so you want choice in your centers, you want it to be fun, and you want it to be a consistent structure so that they can do it successfully. And you're not spending all your time on Monday teaching new centers. Your kids can go to centers, you can start pulling groups or working one-on-one. But yeah, so it needs to be fun. And I think sometimes people are scared to make it cute or fun because people are going to look at that and be like, well, they're not really learning. Well, really, they're probably learning twice as much as they would if it was something that they weren't having fun with and something that didn't hold their interest.
Yep, you're getting emotion in there and joy.
Absolutely.
Greg, I love how you keep the sensory bin in a kindergarten classroom. I think that's amazing, and how you differentiate inside that. Could you give us a little example about how you do that? Yeah,
so the sensory bin came into my classroom about 4 years ago. I brought it in after seeing it. A Differentiated Kindergarten is a great website. She's a huge proponent of sensory bins and sensory learning. And so I'm like, okay, well, because I was in that mindset, like, oh, well, are they learning anything? Are there any academics? And I've come a long way since then. And so once I saw how she incorporated the academics and differentiated it, I was like, that's great. The kids can get in there. And I'm a big fan of making a mess. Like, I think learning is messy, and if we're not making a mess in our classroom, something's wrong. And so, I mean, today our floor was covered in red paint. So I looked at that like, awesome, today was a success. And I still have red paint on my hand. And so I wanted to bring that sensory bin in to give them that experience. And so I just use a simple Rubbermaid container, a small Rubbermaid container, built a little stand out of PVC pipe. Before I built the stand, it sat on the floor, and the kids did it on the floor. Again, so didn't cost me any money because I had a Rubbermaid tub laying around. And so I try to fill it with stuff that's either seasonal or matches the theme that we're working on. So right now, for example, in our sensory bin, we're doing our space unit. And so I used black aquarium rocks for space. And I made these little Martians that stand up. I printed them on neon cardstock, so they're very bright against the black. And there are two sets. There's an orange set and a green set. And the green set are CVCE words, and the orange set are blends. And so the kids know that when they go to the sensory bin, everything's color-coded. And again, it goes back to that freedom and that independence. So everything's color-coded and the clip art matches so that when they look at their recording sheet, they know what they're looking for in the sensory bin. And so that's how it's differentiated, because there are two different levels in there, and the kids are working on what they need to work on and what challenges them. I love the sensory bin. Do you assign them which set of words to work on, or do they pick? Do they pick, oh, I'm going to do the CVC words? Do you tell them, okay, this group, y'all are the blends? It's assigned, and it's based on the clip art matches what's on their recording sheet. Got it. And the recording sheets are color-coded to match their group. And so the pink group would pick their pink paper, and they would know exactly what they're looking for in the sensory bin. Awesome. Yeah.
And it sounds like teachers can go on your website and see videos of how this all runs.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the kindergartensmorgasboard.com, and they can see blog posts and videos and pictures of how it all runs, how we set it up.
Okay.
Get tons of free stuff that they can use in centers. Yeah, and the thing about the sensory bin is a couple weeks ago it fell over and it was popcorn, little popcorn kernels everywhere. And I'm like, okay. So the kids all ran over there and started scooping up popcorn and cleaning it up. And my favorite one so far this year is I used fake snow from Walmart back at Christmas. And one of my little boys, and this is what it's all about. The picture I have of him after this is, it really epitomizes what a sensory bin is all about. He comes over to me and he is covered from head to toe in fake snow. I mean, his hair is white. It's just all over him. And so I said, well, it looks like you're having fun. Keep going. And I was watching him, and he was literally like elbows deep in there, just digging around and playing. But he did what he was supposed to do. And I'm like, that's exactly what it's about. And when he was done, he dusted himself off and he cleaned up what he could off the floor, and off we went. But that's what it's about. And like seeing him just laugh and smile, he was just, and I was like, oh my God, I said, dude, you look like a mess. I said, did you get in the sensory bin? And he just laughed, and that's what it's about.
That's awesome. I love hearing that. I know. I would love to be in your room watching that. I just think that, but I can go visit the Facebook Live, right?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, Greg, please share with us the greatest highlights and impacts from your career. And what is your deepest hope regarding education?
Wow. I mean, I think there's so much. I think every day there's, and that's kind of like the mission of Happy Classrooms, is that every day there's something positive that we can take away. And I think that that's what we need to be focused on. We need to focus on those positive moments. And, you know, I think back to my first or second year in kindergarten, and I had, it was in the projects, and second year of implementing morning meeting, and I had a little girl, and we had a real issue with lice that year with her. Probably one of the most severe cases I have ever witnessed. And it was to the point to where she'd come back for a couple of days and she'd be fine. And then I would see her start to scratch, and I was like, okay, we need to call mom. And it got to the point where she would cry, and she would say, I don't want to go home anymore. I don't want to miss school. And mom was really struggling with it and having a hard time getting it under control. And so she'd been gone for a week, and I knew why. I knew what was going on. And so one day the office calls and says, hey, your little girl's back. And I was like, oh, great. And the secretary said, yeah, but something happened. And she said, mom shaved her head because mom didn't know what else to do. She said, so we gave her a hat and we're going to send her down. And I said, okay. So she came down and she walked in the classroom and she crawled up in my lap and just cried. And it was heartbreaking because girls love their hair, and it was something that she was so proud of, and she had this beautiful hair. Now it was gone. And so it was one of those things where it just kind of spur of the moment, I'm like, I've got to do something. And I sent, so I gave her a note, and I sent her with one of the other friends, and I said, I need you to go run an errand for me. So they left the classroom, and I told my kids, I said, you know, sometimes adults do things, and moms and dads and families and grown-ups do things that we don't like and we don't agree with, but we can't help it. We're grown-ups. And I said, that's what her mom did. Her mom did something that she doesn't like, and it's made her really sad. And one of my kids said, yeah, we know that her mom cut her hair off. And I said, yeah, her mom was trying to help fix something and cut her hair off, and it made her really sad. And so we talked a little bit about it, and one of my girls, she looked at me and she said, well, she's still the same person, right? And I said, well, of course she is. She just doesn't, you know, she just looks a little bit different now. And she said, well, she's still the same so-and-so, and we love her like we always did. And that's probably one of my proudest moments, is knowing that more than any test score or any reading level, that the kids genuinely loved one another, and that it didn't matter to them whether she had hair or didn't have hair, because she still was the same person. And that's one of those things that constantly reminds me of the power of of relationships and building that community and that sense of family in our classroom. And so I said to the kids, I said, you know what? I said, here's what we're going to do. I said, since she's wearing a hat because of her hair, I said, we're going to have Hat Week. And I didn't ask permission. I didn't call the principal and say, hey, this is what we're doing. I told the kids, I said, from now on, I want y'all, and at least this week, we're all going to wear hats. And so the next day, I didn't tell the little girl, and then the next day, everybody came in with their hats on. And you could just see that sense of relief on her face. And I can just remember that smile when she realized that everybody was wearing a hat to support her. So I think that's one of those moments that will always stick with me. And it's one of those things that just reminds me that it's not about numbers and data and tests. It's about our kids, and it's about teaching them to be good people and allowing them to teach us as well.
Wow, that's such a profound story. Now, I apologize for having to step up while you were telling it, but hearing the way that you guys wrapped it up and everyone came in wearing hats that day to support her, it's beautiful. She'll never forget that.
Well, I think forget that. And when I hear your story to her, it's such a great reminder that our role as teachers is so much bigger than just the standards, as we're talking about. Like, the standards clearly are important, but we have an impact. We have such an effect on their lives and the culture that we build in our classroom, and how we help them through the different adversity that they have. So that's an incredible story.
That empathy too, that's striking me. That empathy is just such a huge gift that we can give to kids, and you're building that in from kindergarten on in your district. Because if you can get that built, they understand, they feel that empathy, and they act on it. Wow.
Yeah.
We'll change the world.
Absolutely.
So, yes. Greg, if you could share one thing that you would like Lead Up teachers to walk away with or go out and do to make a difference, what would it be?
Happy classrooms. So
perfect.
We know, we see it every day. We see the negativity on social media, on the news. And so we have to do something about that, because we know that negativity is not an accurate reflection of what really happens in our classrooms. Teachers are not failing our kids. Our schools are not failing our kids. Politicians and other people not in our classroom, they're failing our kids. We are not failing our kids, and we have to start telling our story, and we have to start letting our communities and our leaders and our world know that we are not failing our kids. We do amazing things in our classrooms every single day. And our kids do amazing things in our classrooms every day, in spite of all of the obstacles and the roadblocks that are put in front of us and that are put in front of our kids. Our kids show up every day. They're excited. They come in. They work as hard as we ask them to, and they do amazing, incredible things. And that's the story that we need to be telling. That's the stuff that needs to be flooding social media, not all of this negativity that's out there. And so that's the mission of #HappyClassrooms, is that if you go on social media and you share one positive thing about your school or your classroom every single day, we change that conversation. We take over the conversation, we control the message, and people start to realize that teachers and schools are not failing. In fact, we're doing amazing, incredible things in our classroom every day. We just have to start using our voices to tell our story, because no one's telling our story. We don't have PR people and a marketing department. So we have to be the PR department. And our classrooms, that's our story. And so that's why Kayla and I started Happy Classrooms, and we encourage everybody to join in the movement. And so it's simple. You're already on social media. You're sharing the cat videos. So take a couple of minutes, think about something positive that happened in your classroom, and you probably have hundreds of them from every day. And you just simply share something on social media, and you don't have to be pictures, and just tell something positive that happened, something that stuck out to you, and use the #HappyClassrooms. And that's how we're able to affect the change, because we're telling our story, and we're showing our communities in the world that we truly are doing incredible things in our classroom, and our kids are doing even more amazing things in our classroom. And if we could get this #HappyClassrooms to start trending on Twitter or Instagram or on Facebook, imagine the change that we could truly affect in our classrooms. And so that's what I want people to walk away with, is that, yes, it's the hardest job in the world. Yes, it's frustrating and it can be overwhelming and we're tired, but it's the absolute best job in the world. And we get to walk into a classroom every day where there are these little humans who are excited to be there with us, and they're excited to see us, and we truly get to make an impact in their lives. And you couldn't ask for anything better. And that's the story that the world needs to hear from us.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm just, some of my tweets now, I'm going to have our district hashtag, and then I'm going to add happy classrooms and start that going across. As we wrap up, Greg, please share what's coming up for you in the near future and how our listeners can connect with you.
Well, so it's going to be a busy summer. So I'm very excited that we're hosting 2 of our Elevate conferences this summer. We'll be in Chattanooga in June and Philadelphia in July. And you can get all the details on those on the kindergartensmorgasboard.com. And then I'll be traveling I'm pretty booked through January from what I understand. Jason handles all of my travel and workshops and all of that. But I'm traveling pretty much twice a month until at least January. So I'm very excited that I get to spend time with teachers and hopefully get to help and inspire teachers. So I'll be doing that. Of course, I'll be blogging and we'll be all over social media. But that's what's coming up for us. I'm super excited about our Elevate conferences this summer. So you can find me on my blog, thekindergartensmorgasboard.com. And then Facebook and Instagram are both Kindergarten Smorgasboard. Twitter is KinderSmorgy. And we also have a YouTube channel, and that's youtube.com/Greg Smedley. And that's where we have, I think, hundreds of videos of lessons and how I introduce centers and morning meetings, and all of that stuff is out there. And we also do a monthly YouTube live show called Submissions for Smorgy Live. So it's pretty easy to find us. We're pretty much everywhere all the time.
Awesome.
Well, I think I first stumbled upon you possibly on Twitter, and I was just amazed and love all of the content that you share and what you talked about with Happy Classrooms. You live and breathe it every single day, and I love that. And so let's marry LeadUpTeach with Happy Classrooms and share the love that way. That would be amazing.
Absolutely. And this truly, just hearing your message has been joyful in and of itself. So Greg, thank you so much for joining us on LeadUpTeach tonight. Your message has been powerful and inspiring, and I know that our audience also loved hearing about your personal journey and all that you're doing to highlight the joy of teaching. And we also want to give a shout out and a big thank you to our amazing audience who tuned in tonight to LeadUpTeach.
We will certainly be sharing out the link to tonight's episode on Twitter using the hashtag LeadUpTeach, but also Happy Classrooms.
Absolutely.
Yes. Between now and our next episode, we encourage you to connect with one another and tweet using the LeadUpTeach and Happy Classrooms hashtag on Twitter. We are signing off. Good night, everyone. Lead on and lead up.
Bye, everybody. Thank you.
Bye. Thanks, Greg.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.